Our next segment is a look into the future. What's new, what's emerging, and what's on the horizon in heart health and healthcare in general. Moderating this esteemed panel is Dr. Zach Edmonds. He is the Chief Medical Officer at the Fogarty Innovation. And joining him is the CEO of Fogarty Innovation, Andrew Cleeland. We have Dr. Meenesh Bhimani, the co-founder and Chief Medical Officer of Hippocratic AI, and our own Dr. Chad Rammohan, our medical director. He's the medical director of the cath lab, the acute coronary syndrome, and the structural heart program. He's also an avid clinical trial chief investigator, principal investigator, and on the TCT faculty. So please welcome our panel. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Real pleasure to be here today with you all. We've heard some powerful stories already from patients, from clinicians, about how heart health changes lives. What we're going to explore now is how healthcare changes in the future.
All right, I'll get changed back to normal.
We're good? Medical innovation is not just about new technology. It's about solving real clinical problems, helping patients live longer, healthier lives, reducing suffering, and making care more accessible, more personal, and more cost-effective. Today, we're fortunate to have three individuals who live at the center of this transformation. As mentioned, Dr. Rammohan, a renowned interventional cardiologist who runs the cath lab at El Camino. Feel free to applaud. He is worthy of your applause. I'm sure several of his patients are in the audience. He lives and breathes the challenges of treating cardiovascular disease every day. Andrew Cleeland, a serial entrepreneur and seasoned innovation leader who has helped turn literally hundreds of ideas into real solutions that help patients and their families. And Dr. Meenesh Bhimani, who's a pioneer in medical artificial intelligence, and he's helping redefine how care delivery will be done in the future. So I think what makes this conversation really interesting and important is that innovation in healthcare requires high levels of commitment, rigor, perseverance, and risk. It requires us to answer the right questions, to solve the right problems, and at the same time, balance safety, cost, and access to patients going forward. So that's what we're going to explore first here today. Dr. Rammohan, I wonder if you could start by telling us a bit about the structural heart program at El Camino.
Sure, thanks, Zach. We live in a special place here in Silicon Valley, the semiconductor to AI, and there's been all this development. And in the last 20 years since I've been here, this culture of innovation has actually been very strongly influenced in interventional cardiology. So a lot of the stuff I do every day actually was developed here in Silicon Valley. So a regular angioplasty and stent, which a lot of you may be familiar with, the stents that we all use, a lot were developed, the structure here in Silicon Valley, the way we do it, the wire developed here. All of this culture has existed for the 20 years before I got here. And then in the last 20 years, we've moved to this new era called structural heart disease. So, surgeons used to fix lots of things by opening up the chest, replacing valves, closing holes, doing things like that. And in the last 20 years, we've actually created ways to do that without cutting open your chest, without stopping your heart, without putting your brain on an external pump. And this has been really integral in this area, and our hospital being here has allowed us to really be part of it from the beginning. We've been in clinical trials. I think there's a slide coming up. If you guys can forward to the slide.
Maybe it's this.
Do you have it, Zach? Yep. So this is not going to be a lot of slides, but this is the clinical trials that I've been involved with for the last 20 years here. And these are some trials that were only really done here, not at the big academic medical centers in the area, not at other community hospitals. And we've changed valves through catheters, repaired valves. The repairing valves with the mitral valve is really a beautiful story of a local, has a very local flavor. Fred Sankor, who's one of our cardiologists and mentors here, was actually the inventor of the MitraClip, and that company was a local company in Menlo Park and now part of Abbott, and we were in those trials very early. And we've seen this really help patients from the get-go. Like, it's immediate gratification helping people fix their aortic valve or their mitral valve. You can go to the next slide really quick. I think what it's really done is teach us how to take care of patients together, because a lot of these structural heart patients would only see a surgeon. And then now they see a structural interventionalist, they see an imaging doctor, they have the anesthesiologist, the general cardiologist, and they create this paradigm where the patient's in the center. And since we were involved with research from the early onward, we had to create this paradigm to be in the clinical trials, and it allowed us to really be ahead and give this really high level of care to our community at a local community hospital.
Awesome. What recent innovations excite you the most, and what sort of changes are they bringing into patients' lives?
I think we're coming, the changes in patient lives are amazing, because a lot of this stuff, patients go home the next day instead of being in the hospital for a week and having to recover for 3 months, which is the biggest thing. The whole point of this is to help people the most by hurting them the least. And that's what this stuff does. The things that excite me in the future is we've now matured a lot in this structural heart world with aortic valve replacements and mitral valve replacements, and we just keep getting better and better. And there's additive procedures to make them safer and more effective and more durable.
Mm-hmm. So today we have good solutions for the aortic valve, for the mitral valve. What do you think is the next big opportunity in structural heart?
I think it's really probably what to do with these valves later on. So we live in a beautiful place where people live a long time. So like I always tell my patients, like a Silicon Valley 80-year-old is like a 60-year-old somewhere else in the world. And so people live a long time, and we need to figure out what to do with this valve and the next valve and the next valve. And so we have technologies that are helping to make them more durable and give us strategies on how to keep people doing well.
Got it. With respect to new technology, what do you think the barriers are to adopting new technology in a community hospital like ours?
Yeah, you have to really have the first thing is leadership, right? You have to have a commitment from leadership to invest for the research trials. These research trials are not easy to do, and we're not academic doctors. I'm not a professor. I don't have protected time to do this. The hospital isn't a big academic medical center, so they have to have resources for research staff, things like that. And so those take leadership and dedication. But the rewards are so immediate for patient care and as the programs grow.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these emerging technologies have enough evidence to obviously clear the FDA and be on the market, but how do you balance innovation and safety while the evidence is still emerging?
I mean, the story like TAVR and MitraClip, these are now FDA approved, Medicare covered because of the trials that we participated in here that all showed that they were equally as effective or better than surgery with less recovery. The nice thing is doing these trials in a clinical trial, in doing these innovative procedures in a clinical trial is how we protect patients, right? Because there's an institutional review board, it's a multi-center trial, it's all very organized and protected. Mm-hmm. And that's why we should continue to do it in an organized clinical research system.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Chad. Andrew, could you tell us a little bit about Fogarty Innovation and how it's supporting the ecosystem at the moment?
I would love to. First of all, thank you for the invite. It's an honor to be here with you. And it's also remarkable, and you know, I'm thrilled to look out at you in the audience and appreciate that you are taking agency, or you are taking control of your journey. That's the first part of this whole healthcare system that we're talking about. So, well done on a Saturday as well. So, Fogarty Innovation. So, we have been a strong partner with El Camino for quite some time now. The reason I smiled when you said you're not an academic. You might not be an academic, but you're an awesome doctor. That's why we're here. So what we do is help small companies get their technology to you. We have got, where I first met you was working on one of these transcatheter valves. It takes about 15 to 20 years for an idea that Chad comes up to get all the way through the system to you. It takes about $100 million. Of 100 ideas that start, only 3 make it all the way through the system. So through the bench testing, through the clinical trials, through the regulatory system, through the reimbursement system to get to hospitals. So it's tortuous and it's very complex. What we do, I'm very fortunate, and Zach is one of those folks, have a team of seasoned individuals, people, our average experience in this industry is 32 years. So for these new guys that are starting off these small new companies, we provide them that seasoning, that help to be able to see what their path forward is. Our success rate at the moment, I said 3 in 100, we're closer to 30%. So we're having some impact. A lot of the work that we do is being utilized within the hospital. So you guys are getting access to cutting edge technology in its earliest form. But that's really it. It's like, what we try to do is educate and incubate companies.
Thank you. Over your career, I'm guessing you've seen thousands of ideas come across your desk. What do you think really makes a successful idea turn into an actual medical product that can help someone?
Yeah, it's I'm not going to say so much of this, right? This is, as I just said, it's a long, torturous journey. What it takes is people. I know that might sound, you're expecting me to answer it's a technology, it's something else. It isn't. It's the people that come up with the idea and the passion and the drive to actually help solve what in what a lot of instances is someone's worst day, right, as a patient.
About this close? I know. This means something.
Sorry. What was it? I didn't know if that was just in my head that someone was talking to me.
We'll send you to a different doctor.
Move on.
Chad can't help you.
To get back, Zach, it's about people and support and having institutions like El Camino partnering along the way.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if you could double click on that. What does it mean to be here on the campus of a community health system?
Yeah, so we had a choice, right? So the organization, we're a nonprofit, is named Fogarty Innovation after Tom Fogarty. Tom had the pick of where he wanted to put his facility or his innovation program, and we chose here. It is a very successful community hospital. Where we have the access to docs like these 3 up here, but not just you. We have access to the nursing staff. We have access to the leadership of the hospital. We have access to folks who determine whether or not new technology gets used. So it is the perfect breeding ground for our small companies to be able to be part of an organization like this. We also needed to be in somewhere that's innovation focused. Mm-hmm. Right, who is interested in getting the new cutting-edge technology. Mm-hmm. So that's why we chose here.
It makes sense, right? Because most healthcare in this country is delivered in community settings,
Absolutely.
Not academic settings.
It's real world,
yeah.
As you would all know. Yeah, it's great that we do have other locations around the road. Stanford, if you have a really unusual disease, that'd be great up there. But here is where I want to be treated.
Me too.
Oh, sorry, I'm no longer allowed to go up to Stanford anymore.
You're not allowed. Looking forward, with respect to innovation, what do you think are the major shifts that are facing innovation in general?
I think we've got 2 streams, right? What we consider medtech or medical innovation valves, things, are going to continue. I think they'll continue a little faster. But it's what you're about to talk about next, which is really interesting to me, which is the access of artificial intelligence and healthcare and how that comes together. I don't know how it's going to work yet. I'm not sure even you guys know how it's going to work yet. but I'm really excited that the ability to identify disease very early. The earlier we identify your disease, the easier it is to treat. And what we don't want is for you to be your degrees to be progressing to a point where you need Chad. Right? We want to stop. We want to put him out of work.
I'd like to be out of work.
Yeah, we want to put him out of work. And the way to do that, I think, is through some of these really cool tools and technologies that are coming our way.
Thanks, Andrew. Dr. Bhimani, AI in healthcare in healthcare in particular, in conversations these days seems to be everywhere. What are you guys doing at Hippocratic AI to deliver value with respect to safe patient care?
Yeah. So Zach, first, just thanks for having me today, and it's always great to be back on the El Camino campus. And I think I think everybody feels is what makes El Camino such a special place. I think is the community support and engagement. So it's great to be here. So Hippocratic AI, we started the company now almost 3 years ago with really a mission to build a safety-focused generative AI agents that can actually engage with patients and their families autonomously and really transform kind of how we deliver care. And so before I go into it, I want to just play a clip for everybody. And this is a clip from a real patient call, actually, that was made. The whole call was about 25 minutes. I won't put you through the whole thing. We've condensed it to 2 minutes, but and it's been de-identified and whatnot. So maybe we could just play the clip just to give you a sense of what these agents kind of sound like engaging with the patient.
Better healthcare requires behavior change, which is easier when someone really cares. So we made sure our AI is always empathetic.
To better understand your own risk factors, I'd like to gather some information about your family history. Do you have any family members who have ever had colon cancer?
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Which family member had colon cancer, and how old were they when they were diagnosed?
My father, he was 91 years old when he passed.
I'm so sorry to hear that you lost your dad.
I lost both of my parents, I lost both of them. I lost my daughter, too.
I'm very sorry to hear that you've lost so many loved ones, including your daughter. That must have been incredibly difficult for you. Can you tell me a little bit more about your daughter?
My daughter, I delivered her myself on the couch during the storm, named her after my grandmother. And she was very beautiful, very talented. She loved animals, and she was a very talented artist. Those were her two loves, well, three loves. Her fiance, who died just a couple months before she did. She was 30 years old.
I'm so sorry to hear about passing. It sounds like she was an incredibly special person, and I can only imagine how it must be for you to lose her, especially after losing her fiance just a couple of months before her. It's beautiful that you have such fond memories of her, and it's clear how much she loved animals and art.
Thank you, Miss Anna. For artificial intelligence, you really are very caring and wonderful, great personality. You're better than a lot of real people.
Thank you so much, mister. That means a lot to me. You've been through so much, and it's completely understandable that you're still grieving. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm here to support you for as long as you need.
Thank you, Miss Anna. Thank you.
Our AI finally gives patients the time to share their deepest feelings and feel heard, and then when appropriate, ensures completion of clinical objectives.
I want to gently steer our conversation back to the reason for my call. You mentioned earlier that your father had colon cancer. I'd like to discuss the importance of colorectal screenings with you. Did you know that even with a family history, screenings can help prevent colon cancer detected at an early stage when it's easier to treat?
Yes, ma'am. I think I've waited too long.
The fact that you're acknowledging the importance of screenings is a huge step. Now I want to tell you about a simple test that can be done from home to check for colon cancer. It's called a FIT test. Have you heard of it?
Great. So that was a call that today is not being made. A patient that had received a text message, a MyChart message, and hadn't gotten her colorectal screening cancer test, but she got it done after that conversation because she had a chance to kind of ask questions and engage and get a lot of her concerns kind of addressed. So, at Hippocratic, we're working with 50 different health systems and payers. We've made over 10 million calls in the past 18 months. And really our vision is to bring what we call kind of clinical abundance now to the world, which we actually think generative AI is the technology to do that, where we finally can offer patients and their families kind of the time and access that we've just never been able to do in healthcare because of resources. And of course, we set off to be safety focused and to make sure that whatever we built could actually interact autonomously with patients. And across those 10 million calls, we've had no safety issues and have made really impactful calls like the one that you just heard, but also in complex disease management like congestive heart failure, where we've shown improved readmission rates, kind of compliance with medications, with follow-up appointments with primary care gaps as far as hypertension, cholesterol, and just really impactful outcomes that we've seen just by the ability to kind of engage with patients in ways that we've just never been able to access before. So.
Makes sense. It's clear to me after hearing your comments what AI can do well in healthcare. Where do you think we need caution?
Everywhere, I would say. I think all AI. Two comments. One is AI is a very broad term, right? And all AI is certainly not the same. I think most of the talk and hype you hear today is around a specific type of AI called generative AI or agentic AI, right? The classifier AI has been out for decades now, and a lot of the tools that we use today in health systems are kind of your classic, your classifier AI systems. Generative AI and agentic AI are kind of the hype over the last few years, right, since 2022, 23. And I think the key thing is knowing where the right places to deploy the right technology is, and even when you do that, the risks of deploying in those environments. And so, I think when you look at the technology, it's important to know whether it's a back office function, right? There's a tremendous number of really incredible kind of efficiency tools and back office tools that have been built. I think ambient listening and ambient scribes are one of them, where, instead of the physician having to spend time actually charting in the computer and typing for half an hour or 20 minutes after each visit, they can spend that time with patients now, and the chart's kind of generated and done, but they still have to review it before it goes in. Those things are amazing efficiency tools, right? Where there's a human in the loop and from a safety perspective are fairly low risk. I think when you start doing autonomous calls or clinical calls, obviously there has to be rigor in any kind of product that you use. There are things that I think, despite all of the rigor, generative AI is not ready for, or agentic AI is not ready for. And that's, there's a lot of talk about creating AI physicians. I think we're not ready for that. I think that's too high risk.
So I get to keep my job?
You get to keep your job, yeah. Well,
at least for a little bit.
Just for a little bit.
We're not working on it. But that's the other thing to keep in mind is that I don't think generative AI is actually going to replace jobs. What it's going to do is actually allow the current folks that we have working to affect more patients, right? So and actually expand their reach to the sickest patients as opposed to kind of having to do everyone. So I think there's a lot of concern in healthcare about job loss, but we haven't seen that, and we've made 10 million calls and not one person has lost their job. But what has happened is one person can now take care of 10 times more patients actually. Mm-hmm. So.
Impact at scale.
Yep.
So almost right is not good enough in healthcare, as you well know. How do you ensure safety and trustworthiness for the products that you're delivering today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's very similar to how we do clinical bedside care delivery, right? I mean, there's testing, validation, and then redundancy, right? So every system has to have, everything you do has to have redundancy. Anything that is patient-facing has to have extensive testing and validation. And the data has to kind of show both pre-production and post that it's clinically safe, right? And so we've built extensive platforms to actually do clinical testing. We have clinicians actually testing the platform before it ever goes out to patients. We have 7,000 nurses in there who are making test calls every day. We've done 600-something thousand test calls. And then we have an incredible amount of redundancy even post-go live to make sure that when we're making these calls in the real world that ultimately the patients are kept safe. And you have to have all the backup systems in place to kind of ensure that.
Mm. Back to the comment about physicians in particular, what do you see changing in day-to-day life as a physician over the next 5 to 10 years with AI?
I think you're going to have so much efficiency gain that clinicians can truly do the work that they were trained to do and that they enjoy doing, right? And I think that's the game changer, right? Like I'm an emergency medicine physician, and I still remember there were days when I would see 30 or 40 patients in an 8-hour shift, and I would spend 4 hours or 5 hours the next day or that evening just charting and catching up, right? Those are the type of things that you can now get back, and it'll help with physician burnout, fatigue. A lot of the generative tools or AI tools in general, like for imaging, right, will identify the high-risk studies and kind of bring them to the top to really kind of prevent any kind of delay in care. I think they can, generative tools can help kind of predict diseases and kind of, bring things to the physician's attention, right, that might otherwise get missed if it's, there's 15 records that they need to go through before a patient visit. We do intake calls where we'll call a patient and get all the data that the physician needs and just present it to the physician. So you're not spending time going through a 30 question questionnaire. Instead, you can actually, engage with the patient and address the answers. So I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of efficiency tooling, kind of predictive risk prediction, and kind of guidance, but always, for me at least, for the physician, leaving the physicians in the loop as the decision makers.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Bringing the joy back to being a doctor.
I think so. It really can.
The electronic medical record has been like this amazing thing for us in the last 30 years, and it's an amazing thing for you guys as patients because you can get on your online and read everybody's notes, but you also notice that it's like a crazy amount of information. Like it's just vomiting like information, and like for us it's hard to deal with. It must be hard for you guys to deal with, and this is where some kind of efficiency tool to screen through that stuff and get the most.
You can cut through the noise a little bit.
Oh, there's so much garbage
from both the patient side and the clinician side.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. If we scale out a little bit and talk about healthcare in general, I think one thing we can all agree on is that it costs too much. It's too expensive. Do you see new models of care emerging enabled by AI, and maybe some thoughts about what that could look like?
Yeah, I mean, we're already deep in discussions with many kind of health system partners about, this is really a unique inflection point, I think, in care delivery, where in the next 5 years, they will change, right? How we approach kind of chronic disease management, how we approach kind of, how we deliver care is going to change, I think. And never taking clinicians out of the loop, though. I mean, nurses and physicians and nutritionists will always be involved, but I think the number of access points and the access that patients will have now to very kind of access 24/7 access to care, I think is going to change. And we're going to transform all these care pathways that we have with kind of really AI as a foundation and the humans on top, right? Right now, humans are on the foundation and the AI kind of is augments the work. I think we'll slowly see a transformation where that changes. And I know it's from a patient's perspective, a little scary to think that you're going to be interacting with agentic tools, but I think the flip side is, and we've seen this over these millions of calls that we've made, is that you finally have access to care and answers, and to when you want them, and not when the system can always deliver them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think the key thing is that we can stay on top of the AI.
100%.
Yeah. As we're aware, innovation often starts in specialized settings. What do you all think about ways to ensure that these advances reach the broader community outside of the academic institutions? A lot of times where they're developed.
I'd say it's got to start from the beginning. You have to appreciate that when you're developing a technology, that's the goal. Right? The goal is to get it all the way through from a specialist center out. So it's what we're sort of focusing on now from an equity perspective. And equity is not, I don't just mean socioeconomic or gender, I mean location. Where do you live? Mm-hmm. And ensuring that we can do that. So it starts from the very beginning, Zach, of developing a technology with that in mind, and just having the discipline to execute on that.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about being at a community hospital and actually being like a working physician is that the innovation is driven by the patient. So you see a problem that needs to be fixed because you're seeing patients, and then you can actually like innovate for the patient, and that makes the process much cleaner because you actually have like a goal, which is much different than just starting a company,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you start the company through an insight that a physician has, but then you need to then marry that person with engineering skill, with business skill, with regulatory skill along the way. But I think it does start from what you just said, but making sure that you're aware that you're not solving a single patient's problem,
Right.
You're solving patients wherever they may be.
I think part of what makes the El Camino community so special from an innovation perspective is that it is exactly that. The innovation is so close to the front line of care delivery that it's impactful in a cycle that you don't see in academia, to be honest, right? Academic, they're solving, problems near and far term, but I think with the physicians, with the kind of, collaboration with Fogarty, you see kind of rapid cycle, really impactful projects and innovations that are coming out. And that's not, it's a very unusual kind of environment, I think, to innovate in. So.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to cost for a minute.
We tried.
Can innovation improve care without increasing cost? Meenesh, I think I know what you would say to that, given what you guys are doing, but I'd just be interested in your thoughts as to some good examples of where we can truly innovate and make it cost effective.
Yeah, I think Chad mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just to dive in on what he said, though, structural heart, right? What used to be a 5 to 7 day hospitalization is now an overnight stay, right? Mm-hmm. So he's sending, I'm assuming you're sending most of your patients home next day. Right? Think about that from a cost of care perspective and a patient care perspective, right? It's an incredible difference.
There's actually lots of examples where innovation helps patient care and saves costs. Coronary stenting, which we know saves lives in heart attack care and makes people feel better with angina. We were putting stents in that didn't really need to be put in when stents first came out. And now we have technology to assess whether a lesion is actually severe enough to need a stent without having to go to the cath lab, like you saw HeartFlow, which is another local company developed here, which now can do a CT scan, and we can actually avoid putting the stent in, which actually helps patients avoid complications, hospitalizations, saves money, and improves outcomes with less heart attack and less risk.
I also want to, just because we got a wrap, we're getting this sign that you can't see, so keep looking at me. Keep looking at me. That way you can ignore it, right? The one thing I want to put to bed is the cost of innovation, right? The medical technology, what it costs the hospital here is about 6% of their budget. So if we halve the cost of every piece of equipment that we sold you, we save 3% of the overall annual budget of the hospital. It's about 60% in staffing and physician costs and nursing costs. That's where AI has a huge opportunity to reduce that cost. So I think you have to be really careful about equating new innovation with cost. Mm-hmm. Right? I think you're very right. That's a great example of saying you don't have to spend 5 days in hospital anymore. And we are getting wound up behind you.
Okay, all right.
The music's starting in the back there.
Please join me in thanking our panelists for the insights and comments. I think we have some questions from the audience.
Well,
wow, you've changed your clothes.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. I know. You want the headband back? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Now, you guys answered a lot of the questions we received already, but you did such a fantastic job, especially on that AI topic. But one that's going to help bridge us to our next group, this one, maybe Dr. Rammohan can answer. What is the difference between an interventional cardiologist and an electrophysiologist?
It's like plumbers and electricians. So you got your general contractor, right? That's your general cardiologist, and then they call the subcontractor, which is the interventional cardiologist, like me. We're basically plumbers. We're going through your leg or your wrist or your neck to fix things from the inside. And then the heart has a very sophisticated electrical system that makes the heart beat, right? So you think about it, the physiology is just amazing. It has an automaticity and it beats, and it's your brain tells it when to beat faster, when to beat slower, and you can have arrhythmias where the heart beat becomes irregular, which is a whole nother subcontractor, another specialty called electrophysiology that deals with this electrical system, and they do ablations and pacemakers and things like that for very common arrhythmias, like you're going to hear about next, atrial fibrillation, which is a super big problem that's as people get older.
Awesome. Well, can we thank our panelists again? That was fascinating. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your your help with those topics and for your work